Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Facebook Live today. I'm so glad to see so many of you with us. We have a great program for you today. And before I introduce our fabulous speaker, I just want to let you know about a few things that we have going on here at MyHeritage. We have a summer sale going on at MyHeritage DNA. I know that we have viewers from all over the world, so for some of you, it actually is not summer, but there's a sale going on for all of our users, no matter where you're located. And we will be providing a link for that in the comment section. So please take a look. In addition, we have a great giveaway today. We'll be giving away a MyHeritage Complete subscription to one lucky winner. So we would love it if you would comment throughout today's talk and let us know what you're learning, or a story about your family history, something that you've discovered on MyHeritage. We would love to hear. And just commenting and letting us know will enter you in our draw. And we will be giving that away just after the questions section at the end of today's program. So please do get involved. Let us know a story about your family history. We would love to hear. And now to go to today's speaker, we have Bernice Alexander Bennett. She is an award-winning author, genealogist, guest speaker, storyteller, and producer-host of the popular Research at the National Archives and Beyond blog talk radio show. So without further ado, I'm going to be introducing Bernice. Hi, Bernice.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you for joining us. It's so great to see you.
Oh, it's great. I just love stories, and I hope everyone will enjoy the story that I'm going to share today.
So excited. I can't wait. So if you would like to share your screen now, then we would love to get started.
Okay, right now I actually see that the slide is already up.
Oh, I actually don't see it here.
Okay.
At the moment. Do you want to try again?
Yeah. Okay, let's see what's going on then.
Okay. Sometimes we have screen sharing difficulties at the beginning.
Okay.
There we go. I do see it.
Great.
If you could just do presenter mode. Perfect.
Okay.
Now we see your screen, so please take it away.
Okay, everyone. Today I'm going to be sharing with you a story, but I'm going to start off without a hint, there is no story, okay? So what do I really mean? Well, what's a hint? And I hope that you all will, type in the chat room what are some of the hints that you've encountered with your family. But a hint can be a passing remarks and casual conversations that can lead to a journey to discover the family story. Now, the value of listening rather than discounting information can set the stage to crack a brick wall. So, and think about it. Every family has a challenge to uncover the truth. And one important challenge is to explore every little detail heard or seen that will prove or disprove the information. So what am I going to talk about today? Well, I'm going to share a case study of a casual conversation, a little hint that opened the door to finding an amazing family story, which covered an array of events and a myriad of records. So what is a hint? Well, let's think about it for a minute. It could be a dangling sentence. Somebody's talking and all of a sudden they say a little something. It could be a brief memory spoken out loud. It could be a whisper or an offhand comment. So why should you follow up on a hint? Well, think about it. That hint could provide you with an opportunity to structure your research journey. It could provide insight into how your family shares information. It can also help you identify direct and collateral descendants, as well as expand your genealogy into areas you've never considered, searching. It can also prove or disprove a theory. So let me just talk to you about my case study questions and what you should keep in mind when you get a hint. First of all, who is providing the hint? Is the informant credible? How did they obtain the information? Is it plausible? Is this hearsay or based upon actual experience? Has the hint been shared with others? Is that hint a family secret? Did you receive evidence with the hint? Or is the hint connected to a bigger story? So let me share with you my first hint. This is my grandmother, Rebecca Watson Mitchell. And my grandmother lived to be almost 106 years old. And she told me my granddaddy, Peter Clark, owned a lot of land in Maurepas, Louisiana. Oh my goodness. What? He did what? He owned a lot of land in Maurepas, Louisiana. Another hint. I was named after my grandmother, Rebecca Youngblood Clark. So now I have two hints given to me by my grandmother. And so what did I need to do? Well, first of all, she mentioned two locations in Louisiana, St. Helena Parish and Livingston Parish. Those were the two places. So she pretty much gave me a little direction as to where I should go. And so my journey focused on verifying through documents, land. Did he get the land? Could I find the land? And then could I actually verify the name of my 2 times great grandmother, especially the surname? So what basically did I want to know? When did he own the land? How did he acquire the land? Do records exist to support her story? And what information could I find on Rebecca Youngblood Clark? Well, my grandmother didn't just stop with saying that her granddaddy Peter Clark owned land. She also provided me with a picture of her this is my 2 times great grandfather. This is my grandmother's grandfather, Peter Clark, and he's sitting with his son, Moses Clark. And I estimate that this picture was taken around 1906 in Livingston Parish, Louisiana. But guess what, folks? I also wanted to start somewhere. And that somewhere for me was to just find evidence of Peter Clark. And this is a family Bible. This old family Bible may provide the clue. Now, I want you to look at the date on that old family Bible. It's 1895. And in the inside of that Bible, it was called the Self-Pronouncing Edition, Combination Holy Bible containing the Old and New Testaments, translated out of the original tongue. So this was kind of the first page. But what was in that Bible that really surprised me and had me immediately doing the happy dance? And I want to know if any of you have found a family Bible. Well, in that family Bible was the name Peter Clark, born January 31st, 1855. But not only was Peter Clark's name in that Bible, but also my grandmother, Rebecca Watson, born February 4th, 1894. Now, if this is all correct, there should be additional supporting documentation. And so what I did was I wrote to the Louisiana State Archives and requested a copy of Peter Clark's death certificate. And indeed, there was a death certificate, folks. Now, I had no idea that I would even find this, but here was a death certificate. And in that death certificate, it stated that Peter Clark died of tuberculosis at the age of 55 on the 22nd of May, 1909. Then I said, well, maybe I should just continue to look. I just wanted to see a little bit more evidence. And to my surprise, Peter Clark's name was in the newspaper on the 25th of May, 1909. And this is the Times-Picayune newspaper. And here he is at the age of 55. And this is a New Orleans newspaper. And so right there, I'm thinking, my head is spinning. If he was born in 1855 and he died in 1909, if I'm going to look for land, I certainly didn't have to look beyond 1909 because he was no longer alive. And so I looked at the 1900 census. And what did I find? Peter Clark, head of the family, and it was listed he was a farmer and he owned land. But guess who else was in that census? My grandmother, Becky, granddaughter. And this is what it looks like here. But there's a problem with this census. I didn't see Rebecca Youngblood in here. I did see other children. His son, William, his daughter, Mary, that we call Dolly, his daughter, Martha, and then my grandmother, not with the surname Watson, but the surname Clark. Also, she had a brother, Berlin, and he was also in the household. And even the birth year was different. So wait a minute, what's going on here? He definitely owned land in 1900. Did he own land in 1890? I mean, I'm trying to put together a timeline. And this is something that you all want to think about. When you get a hint, you want to think timeline. You want to think, what's my research journey? And here is my grandmother around 1900. Little girl, she was about 6 years old, standing next to her school teacher at the Tiger Bluff Baptist Church. And my grandmother also provided me with this picture. I mean, she is really a wonderful asset to have and to share her own memory. But wait a minute, I have now skipped exactly 20 years from 1900. There's no 1890 census for me to look at, although I could look at other documents. I'm now in the 1880 census, and what do I see? I do see Peter Clark. I see Peter Clark with his wife, Rebecca. Remember, my grandmother said that she was named after her grandmother, Rebecca. I also see two children, Jane and Isabel. Well, let me tell you all something. Isabel is my grandmother's mother. So Isabel was born around between 1878 and 1879. And then there's a young man in the household named Robert, but I also see a lady named Katie. And further up in the census, I see an elder, Peter Clark. But let's see what else I can find. Well, right now, I'm thinking that maybe I need to go find more information and get out of the census, which is nice to have that federal document. But it was time for me to go to the parish where my grandmother mentioned. She mentioned two. She mentioned Livingston Parish and St. Helena Parish. And so I went to St. Helena Parish, and I was very fortunate because there was a St. Helena Parish researcher by the name of Antoinette Harrell. And Antoinette met me at the courthouse. And guess what I found, folks? Yes, I found a marriage certificate. Actually, it was a bond. And on that was Peter Clark married Rebecca Youngblood on July 15th, 1874. You know, I'm doing the happy dance right now as I talk to you all. Here they are. This was the whole document. And yes, 1874 at the courthouse. Not online, but at the courthouse. Well, I wanted to then know, okay, so I found Rebecca Youngblood. Could I find Rebecca Youngblood's parents? Well, yes, I could. I went from 1880, I found her, she was married to Peter Clark. 1874, there was the marriage license, but here she is with her parents, Thomas Youngblood. And look, Thomas is a farmer. Minerva, there's another Thomas. Here is my 2 times great grandmother, Rebecca. Louis, Charles, Marshall, and Dave. They're all in the household. And this is St. Helena. This is the parish of St. Helena. And as you can see, a little clearer, this is the same information that I shared with you on the census sheet. So could I find a marriage license or a bond for Rebecca's parents? Absolutely, I sure did. And here they are, Thomas Youngblood. And look what else I now have. I have Minerva. Minerva Youngblood's maiden name is Minerva Smith. And they were married in 1872. Now, obviously, with that 1870 census, you saw a lot of children. So granted, I have to admit, and you would probably say the same, they were cohabitating, but they chose to enter into a legal bond by getting married. And this is the document I would like to say that they left for somebody like me. But you know, remember I also showed you Moses, the person my grandmother said was her Uncle Moses. Well, I also have a marriage record for him. It is Moses Clark. He got married in 1906, and his parents were identified as Rebecca Clark and Peter Clark. So I feel really good that I have gathered the supporting documentation that I need to say that my grandmother perhaps really knew what she was talking about when she said her grandmother was Rebecca Youngblood. Well, I wanted to look for the land. I mean, I got a little sidetracked because I wanted to make sure I was seeing the right thing. And I looked at the 1880 census, and there was my 3 times great grandfather still listed as a farmer. But I couldn't find the land. I couldn't find any documentation because earlier I discovered that the courthouse burned in Livingston Parish, a place where maybe some land records may have been. And this is the 1880 census. But I did look at an agriculture census. This is the 1880 census. And he had 6 acres of land, and his name is on the agriculture census. Well, guess what, folks? He did pass away, but I found a succession document that when someone dies and he has property, you have to go to court and you do probate. And this was a document that I found in the courthouse of Livingston Parish. And basically, it's talking about Youngblood, that he way. But also in that document, it states that his wife, Minerva Youngblood, died about 5 years ago. So I am now finding all the evidence I need to say that I am really connecting the dots that I need to connect. So what did I find? Well, first of all, my grandmother, Rebecca Watson Mitchell, was most likely, this is my conclusion, named after her grandmother, Rebecca Youngblood Clark. I discovered my 3 times great-grandparents. Thomas Youngblood, a farmer. He died in 1882, leaving no debt. And I found that on the succession document. I also discovered that my 3 times great-grandmother died around 1878. But now I had a problem. Where was Peter Clark in 1870? I found Rebecca in 1870. I should have found Peter Clark, but I didn't. But what I did find, because now I'm at another place, I'm at the National Archives in Washington, D.C., going through the Freedmen Bureau records. And what did I discover? A 1868 Freedmen labor contract. And Peter Clark is on the Cox Plantation in Livingston Parish in 1868. He's listed with his mother. Now I even have Peter Clark's mother, Katie Clark, and siblings, Anne, Olivia, Hester, Emma, Bob. Now, what would you do if you could not find these people? Here they are. This is what the form looked like. And I just blew it up so that you could see Katie, Anne, Olivia, Peter, Hester, Bob, and there's Emma. Well, I decided, wait a minute, if I can't find them with the Clark surname in 1870, maybe I should just look for them with their first name and not their last name and see what happens. Well, folks, they were there in the 1870 census, but listed as Johnson. Yes, Johnson. Peter, Olivia, Hester, Bob, and I don't know who this is, listed as Johnsons in the 1870 census. Have any of you ever found something like this, that you were looking for one name and you found your folks with another surname? Who knows? Somebody probably stood at the corner and said, well, who lives in that house? And they say, oh, those are the Johnsons. And they named who they thought they knew. And this is what it looks like on MyHeritage. So I don't know who Mary Johnson is, because it said Katie Clark as his mother. But folks, I went back to the courthouse again, because you know what I wanted to find? I wanted to see if I could find marriage certificates on those siblings. And I did. Hester Clark married James Doty. Alexander Dorsey married Olivia Clark. Bob, his brother, married Emily Harrell. And you can see here, Peter Clark served as the principal for his brother, Robert Clark. So now I feel I have a timeline. 1870, Peter didn't own land. He was a laborer. 1880, Peter didn't own land. He was a farm laborer. So if Peter owned any land or acquired any land, let's say it had to be after the 1880 census. And because I didn't have the 1890 census, I then went to another source. And this source was the Bureau of Land Management. And you could find the Bureau by just clicking this link to globeblm.gov. On this form, I identified that Peter Clark, yes, Peter Clark did own 159.33 acres of land. But you know, I didn't stop with that because I had a document number. And so the next place I needed to go was back to the National Archives. Why? Because the National Archives has original land records. And so I went back to the National Archives, this time with a number, and I requested this file. And in this file, I could see that Peter Clark put in an application April 25th, 1887. Do you all know how much I'm doing the happy dance? I can't even describe what it was like going to the National Archives and seeing in that file, Peter Clark of Livingston Parish. I am a native citizen of the United States and over the age of 21 years and head of my family. I also found additional information because there's certain rules that went along with this homestead land or the application. By the way, this application was part of the Homestead Act of 1862. But here it is, Peter Clark, just as my grandmother said, Maurepas, Louisiana. And October 15, 1894, Peter Clark, since he put in this application in 1887, he had to follow some rules. Number one, he had to live on that land for at least 5 years. He had to cultivate that land. And then he had to go back to the land office with witnesses to prove that he did what he said he had done. And so these are the people that were identified as witnesses for Peter Clark. It also had to appear in the newspaper. You know, it's really wonderful when you could find the documentation to support that hint. And here it is, Peter Clark in the newspaper, and they named the people that would support his claim. Peter Clark stated, and this is the testimony of the claimant, I'm 38 years old. I am born in Louisiana. My house was built and established actual residence on the land 10 years ago. So do you all understand now? If I had that 1890 census, I may have seen where he was at that time, but 10 years ago. And he put, of my wife and 4 children, these are the people that are living in the house. And then he gave his final testimony that he was a very poor man. And until that day when he was supposed to show proof, he didn't even have the money to get back to New Orleans, but that he lived on that land in good faith for over 10 years. And it would work great hardship were he deprived of his entry. So he basically said, you know, I put myself before you and I say, listen, I hope that you accept my explanation. And guess what, folks? Peter Clark got his land. This is the register of final homestead certificates. And he got his land. But guess what else happened? I was sharing this story with one of my cousins. And I said to my cousin, you know, I discovered that our 2 times great-grandfather, Peter Clark, owned land. And she said, oh, I knew that. And I said, really? She said, yes, because Lil Mama, this is Peter Clark's daughter, Hester Clark Robinson. Well, Lil Mama had a document in a book. And after she passed away, I was shaking a book, and this is what came out. The original land patent is in the hands of one of my cousins to this date. And she provided me with a copy of the original land certificate. Now, I am just So excited and so happy that I actually have a copy of this. But I also went back to the courthouse again. I like going to the courthouse. And I said, do you have any information? I gave them the coordinates of the land where you could show me where that land is located. And they said, well, yes, it's located right here where this number 2 is. But they also had a map on the wall in the courthouse. And here I am pointing to Peter Clark's land. And this is what it looked like on Google Earth. So let me just go over this timeline with you. Peter Clark was born between 1855 and 1859 in St. Helena Parish. In 1868, he's documented on the Freedmen Bureau record as living on the Cox Plantation in Livingston Parish. In 1870, Peter Clark is in St. Helena Parish, and he is a farmhand. By 1874, Peter Clark has married Rebecca Youngblood. In 1880, Peter Clark is a laborer in St. Helena Parish. In 1887, he now has put in an application for a homestead, to be a homestead. In 1896, Peter Clark his homestead patent, 59.30 acres of land. In 1900, he is recorded in the United States Census as a farmer who owned his land. And in 1909, Peter Clark has passed away. And this entire story is written in a book, and I like to write short stories in a book called Tracing Their Steps, a memoir. And I share with you my journey of trying to verify what my grandmother shared with me. A hint, and I hope that all of you that've been listening will share what would you do with a hint. Well, for me, I want you to know that I remembered it, but I also wrote it down. And I wrote some questions: who, when, where, what. Okay, I followed my instincts. I said, you know what? I believe my grandmother is credible. I mean, why would she say this if she didn't know? I formulated a research plan, and my first part of my research plan was to start in my own home, and there was the family. I made a decision that I wouldn't discount until I could prove or disprove. I documented my evidence, and I did list my sources, and then I told the story. So let me just conclude by saying what I said in the beginning. Why should you follow up with a hint? It gives you an opportunity to structure your research journey. It will provide insights into how your family shares information. It will help you identify direct and collateral descendants. Would expand your genealogy into areas you never considered searching, and it will prove or disprove a theory. And so I'll just conclude without a hint, there is no story, and open it up for questions. Thank you.
Bernice, thank you so much. That was so fascinating. And I think that we got so many comments from our users that they just loved seeing the progression of what you found and one step after the other. Really incredible. I just wanted to read out a couple of the fantastic comments that we received, just to share with you as well. We had Sue said, so interesting and helpful that you talk through your thought process. Kimberly said, great photos and documents. And Yatan said, I love the thinking and the timeline element. Thank you. So really, really incredible. And I hope that it really will help our viewers as well to get an idea of where they can start and where they can go on their journey from here. So really, really incredible. And we even already heard some of their stories that they shared with us. I'll read you just a couple because I think they're really special. Nancy said, family notes about a great aunt and her daughters lost in the Holocaust, searching for years. A cousin from Poland, searching with an alias, contacted me via MyHeritage and we connected. I received photos of this relative and her daughters. Hints pay off.
Great, wonderful. Yes, they do. They really do pay off. And you shouldn't discount them. You really shouldn't. And if I had discounted the hint, I wouldn't know anything. You know?
Exactly. And Peggy said, perseverance and a little bit of luck is always a winning formula, no matter what country your research is in. So true.
Absolutely. And by the way, this didn't happen in 1 year. It took at least 15 years.
Right, a long journey, but so worth it. Really, really incredible.
Yes, definitely.
And now we have a few questions, if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay, so let's see. We have Madge says, I have 2 great-grandmothers listed as widows on the censuses, but records of their husbands seem to continue with another wife at a later time. Could they be divorced? This was in 1870 to 1880.
They could be, or, sometimes what I have discovered that they may say widow, but really the man is still alive and he's maybe walked away. He may be somewhere else.
Rose said, where did he get the funds for the land?
Well, first of all, this was homestead land, and although I have no way of knowing other than to say that he may have had support from his friends, because when I looked at some of the friends, the people that served as his witnesses, they also were homesteaders and perhaps helped each other. Also, we're not talking about thousands of dollars. We're talking sometimes about maybe $20, $30. Now, of course, back in the day, that was a lot of money. And so he perhaps, put his little coins together and had a can that he put the little dollars and whatever he could raise to make certain that he acquired the land.
Liz asks, a few brick walls that I have. With the name of Gamble, it's been difficult to determine parentage in the 1800s in Pennsylvania. With general census reports in early 1800s, can't match one. Any suggestions?
Wow. And the name is Gamble. I don't know if she would even consider doing what I did, but I couldn't find Clark in 1870. So what did I do? I looked for the first names. Now, that may help or it may not help, but it did help me. It was a strategy. It was like thinking out of the box and just saying perhaps. So I would say try different strategies to see if you could find him.
Janice said, put a comment here I just want to read to you. She said, I have your book, but really enjoyed your presentation. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Janice.
So I just wanted to share that. Lisa asked, if Minerva married after children were born, there may also be a previous wife.
A previous wife for Peter Clark? It looks like Peter Clark had a second wife, yes, in 1900, which means that either Minerva passed away, because I can't find her, but I did find this Viola Clark in the 1900 census. So it may mean that Peter had a second wife and something happened to, not Minerva, Rebecca. Rebecca was not in the 1900 census, but when Peter was listed in the 1900 census, there was another wife. So that's more research for me to do to figure out, well, who is Viola? Now, Minerva, on the other hand, is Thomas Youngblood's wife. She passed away in 1878, and he is a widow in the 1880 census.
So further avenues for research.
Yes.
It never ends. It never ends.
It never ends, because now I want to go in the opposite direction. I found the land, so now I want to go and find Peter Clark's mother, Katie. I want to find her before 1868. I want to also find Thomas and Minerva before 1870. And that's my goal. And the interesting thing about the Youngbloods is that there's a Black Youngblood family and a white Youngblood family, and the children are named basically the same.
Wow.
Yes. In the same area, by the way.
Wow.
So that's a whole nother part of my research that I have to really delve into.
Which is related to the question that we received from Renate, which is, did Peter leave a will? Is the land still in the family?
That's what you'll find in the book. There's more to the story. I didn't stop with just knowing where it was. I went further. Yes.
So no spoilers.
No spoilers, but something did happen to the land.
Fascinating.
Year 1965. Okay. That's a long time, right?
Wow, very, very interesting and exciting, and maybe there'll be a future installment of the book as well with all the new developments.
Yes, definitely.
And let's see if we have any other questions. We have a few comments from Jane. Jane said, "To my knowledge, I have no ancestors out west, but you never know. I love learning new areas of research." And let's see, we have Gitti. She said, "My uncle has an amazing memory and has collected old pictures, marriage certificates, birth certificates from the past 120 years.
Wonderful.
When I talk with him, I always audio tape the conversation because he remembers all the great stories about the family."
That's fantastic. That's wonderful. Yes.
Exactly what you should do. Exactly, to make sure that those are preserved for future generations. Incredible.
That's right.
So,
absolutely. It's just, when I think about it, and I was looking at that marriage license, I said, wait a minute, that marriage license of Peter Clark and Rebecca, that's like 166 years old or something. It's just mind-boggling just to think that I'm looking at these very old documents of my ancestors, which means that those documents do exist. And so, African-American research, you can do it. You can find it. The documents are there. It's just perseverance. Recognize that you're going to have to go sometimes to the location, that everything is not online. And this is something I recognized I needed to do very early in the game, that I needed to go to the locations.
Incredible. How do you display those documents? Do you have them framed and hung up? I'm curious.
I wish. No, I have them right now in binders. Yes. But my goal is to provide every single descendant a book with every document.
Wow.
They will know that I gathered this information, but I'm doing it for them. They can turn around and tell the story too. I want the story to continue. I want my granddaughter to be able to tell the story and say, I know because I heard it from my grandmother. And
amazing.
What?
Incredible. That's incredible. We have a question here from Yaya, and she says, "Mrs. Bennett, I'm from and live in Louisiana. Regarding Creole-related surnames, have you seen the surname Honore to be shortened and shown as Nora or Nore?"
No, I haven't. I've only seen it honorary. I haven't seen it shortened.
Okay, great. So I think now we can't get to every single question. I think we will read. Oh, just one last question that I see that I think that you would love to answer. Denise asks, can family friends be good hint sources as well?
Absolutely. You know, sometimes when you can't get the hint you want from your family, go to the friends, because sometimes friends may know just as much as your family, especially those really close friends. So Denise, thank you for the question.
Fantastic. So I think that now we will get to choosing our winner for today. And the winner will receive a MyHeritage Complete Plan, which gives you access to all of MyHeritage's, I think it's 12.5 now, billion historical records. And a lot of those records that Bernice showed today, the census records, a lot of those are available on MyHeritage, and it can help you jumpstart your research, as well as unlimited family tree size, and also all of our new photo tools that we've been advertising a lot lately, which is MyHeritage in Color and the MyHeritage Photo Enhancer, which our users are really enjoying. So those all come with the MyHeritage Complete Plan. Very exciting prize. And so we will be giving that prize to Bonnie Berry, and I will just read her comment. Bonnie wrote, the most fascinating family story I've heard so far was my second great-grandfather. He was a stowaway on a ship at the age of 7 from England to Galveston. It appears the rest of his family came to America a few years later through New York, but never connected with him. I really wanted info or a picture on my grandmother, who died at the age of 26, so I look forward to finding it soon.
Good luck.
So congratulations, Bonnie. We'll be in touch with you through private message. And hopefully with this complete plan at MyHeritage, you'll have a little more luck trying to find photos and getting in touch with relatives who might help you get a hint, as Bernice told us today. So thank you so much to everyone for joining us. And we had such a great time. I really loved hearing this story. And Bernice, thank you for sharing it with us. We really, really loved hearing it.
Well, thank you for inviting me to share the story.
And we hope to see you again soon. So everyone out there, have a great day. And we'll see you at our next Facebook Live. Bye.
Bye.